Yes, it aligns. That's the headline inflation on a year-on-year basis and also on a month-on-month basis. But I would want us to pay much attention to the food inflation that jumped significantly to about 20.6%. And you will see that that is massive. On a month-on-month basis is also what we should also pay more attention to. You look at the month-on-month, while it dropped for the headline inflation. When you look at it based on the month-on-month for food inflation, that moved from 3.75 in June to about 5.56% in July, which means that if you for food inflation, we say most Nigerians spend more than 50% of their income on food. It means that that is that part of inflation that impacts on almost everyone. If you annualize the 5.56, using simple interest alone will give you about 66%. If you do it on a compounding basis, it gives you about 91%. That means that if we continue at this rate within the next 1 year, what cost 100,000 naira now will cost about 191% on a 191,000 naira on a compounding basis. It means the food that we're buying keep increasing, which signals that there's actually a major problem. Yes, there may be a bit of relief during the harvest season, but this rate still, in the last 3 months, has continued to increase, which is significantly high. So when you look at it overall, while the headline that we see looks very moderate, the part that affects, that puts food on the table, the transport, that still remains very high, which needs urgent attention.
I like that you talked about the fact that it needs urgent attention. From your reading, do you think the fiscal authority is giving it the needed attention?
Yes, I think that they are, but it's also about the result. So no matter the effort that they are putting in, the result would also speaks louder. So insecurity is one major factor. When you look at food inflation, ironically, the food basket of the nation, which is Benue State, has one of the highest food inflation rates. So it means that planting is not going on. Most of the areas of farms that they should be cultivating now, or even in the last few months, have not been able to do that, which means that what the harvest would be low and would have to depend on neighboring countries and importation to supplement those prices. So there's a need to intensify efforts for us to begin to see those results. Insecurity is the number one. Secondly, it is logistics. We can't continue, like I always say, to move food items or food produce from using road. It will be very expensive, and that's part of what will also lead to that increase. Energy cost, while on a month-on-month, it's moderated, given the reduction in diesel and PMM prices. But we look at it on a year-on-year basis, it has increased by close to about 30–40%, which can be traceable to the increase in energy prices. So when you look at all those factors combined, you will know that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. How can we reduce that inefficiency of moving things by road? Why shouldn't we be able to move it by rail to reduce the cost? Because all these costs add up to what eventually the consumer buys those products. And at the end of the day, it impacts on purchasing power. So imagine that an average Nigeria minimum wage of 70,000 naira, and within the next 1 year, if inflation rate continues at this current pace, and they use most of the salary to buy food, they won't be able to afford that within the next 1 year if that rate does not reduce. That's the monthly increase does not reduce significantly.
But Dr. Ebo, do you see it reducing? I mean, from where you stand and from what we can see so far, do you see it reducing anytime soon?
I don't think so, except a drastic action is taken around insecurity. I don't see it in the medium term reducing, except maybe coming down for food inflation, maybe coming down within a 3 to 4% monthly increase. Yeah, so, but that is still very high for a country of us, given the rate at which other things that you also have to also provide for, it's also very high.
All right, let's look at external developments, particularly the Middle East crisis. The impact sort of seemed to be muted. I mean, that's what a lot of persons say. Do you see that continuing, irrespective of where the negotiations or the negotiators, pitch their tent moving forward?
It's really unpredictable because we've seen it's been a volatile period when you look at crude oil prices, because based on statements that have been made. So today there may be progress, tomorrow the other party is saying no, they don't agree. So I feel that for within the short to medium term, these oil prices may remain a bit elevated, which means the impact of energy prices, except eventually they find a middle ground, and we can, in terms of movement of goods, especially crude around the Strait of Hormuz, improves. But for now, we hope it's not the new normal in terms of the current high prices that we're seeing, because it's also impacting. But maybe over time, income and productivity will also improve to be able to minimize that impact.
All right, let's close with this. Where do you see the CBN pitching its tent moving forward? Gradual easing, or what do you see?
I feel that the CBN will still want to hold rates, except they want to signal. Food inflation, when you look at the minutes of the MPC meeting, is also a major focus. So for that to still remain high, they know the impact and how it impacts on the average Nigerian. So they would rather want to keep that rate a bit low. They use other instruments to guide rate downwards. The HOMO rate that is now open to everyone, and also the treasury bills and the treasury bills rate that they issue. So they can use that to guide rate downwards if they want to reduce the rate. But I feel that at the next meeting, we may still have, given also the instability within the global space, still have the MPC hold rate at the current 26.5%.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Ayodeji Ebo, Chief Executive Officer.
My pleasure.
Chief Executive of MDU Capital Limited, for sharing your thoughts with us.